Me encanta, el español es increíble, tiene unas posibilidades que uno no encuentra a veces en inglés. El inglés para mí, siendo un idioma también rico, claro, y me encanta lo que sea, pero es un poco más genérico. No tiene, no es tan específico en algunos momentos como lo es el español, empezando por el amor. En inglés todo es love. En español uno tiene diferentes palabras para diferentes grados de amar. So, I'm Marcelo from Bogotá, Colombia. In general, I'm a creative person, let's say, uh, but and I try to balance it with with a healthy lifestyle. So I do a lot of sports and yes, I'm creative person. So I sometimes I can be more creative, sometimes I can't. So meaning that sometimes I do contracting in many different things, which I like because I never do the same thing. All the time I'm changing. And for a creative person, I will say that it's really hard to do the same for long periods of time. So at least that kept me moving in, yeah. So yes, I start doing sports like maybe every Latin American person, meaning not the sport, meaning football, soccer here. So yes, you are actually weird if you don't play soccer. Although I have some friends, few, but some that don't play really well football. But in general, everybody has like decent level of soccer, and then I play basketball for quite a bit, like pretty seriously. But being realistic, I was not doing anything with that in my life. I'm too short for being a basketball player. So then in some moment I start climbing because at the school I was at the time, it was a really small school, kind of progressive school, different, non-traditional school, let's say. And they didn't have like sports program. So one day they brought us, the whole school, to a climbing wall. And since then I just got hooked and I started climbing for really seriously for a long period of time in my life. And it still is one of my passions. I still do it a lot. That connect me with the outdoors, and since then I started doing outdoors. I always bike as as a transportation. Um, but then after many years, yes, when I was already after college and everything, I started doing really seriously adventure racing, which is a combination of different sports, uh, mainly mountain biking and trail running and kayaking. And I did it for really seriously for quite a bit, and I was, yeah, I love it. I love it so much. You go to places that nobody else goes, and I kind of like that tough part, like beating up yourself and and being like crossing that comfort zone and being a little bit miserable in some points that makes you just think differently and do things that you cannot even imagine you could do. And that sport gives you that, definitely, more than, I mean, I have done many sports, but this one is, yes, put you in a different place in your mind. And I say mind because is not even being strong physically, which helps you, of course. But I always say that when you are really well trained, you will suffer less when you race. But you will race, you will suffer anyways. But in these races, you suffer a lot. Physically, but more mentally. It's really tough mentally, and you many times, because they're so long. That's another cool thing, because in sports that are not that long, like the racing, of course, your set of mind doesn't change too much. Or you are good, you are well trained, or you are not, and you're having fun or not. But in this sport, because the races are so long, starting from 1 day to 4 days, so you go through every single or possible stage of mind that you can, that you don't even know that exists. Is kind of crazy, yeah. So then I came to United States, and my training in Colombia, in Bogota, the capital in Colombia, was in fine arts. I studied fine arts in two different. I had some training too in music, but that was before. And then I went to two different colleges there, studying fine arts. But it's different kind of artists, I will say, and I want one of those that like to do things. Some of them don't like much to actually do. And I was really into learning materials and different how to use tools, different tools that you, of course, you don't get that training in fine arts. That's the nice thing in fine arts, is that you have your own projects, and depending on the project, you could learn. Even, I don't know, for example, I did once a sculpture with eyes. Do the teachers know how to work with that? No, probably no. They probably never had touched eyes in their life. So you have, as a student, you have to figure out, like, do research. Now it's way easier than it was before. Before you will have to actually go out and talk to people and encyclopedias and other means that now it's really easy actually to get. Even training is really easy now. Back then it was hard, and yes, it was how you build your own career, your own studies. You build your own, yes, your own character as an artist through the projects. So in some point I was doing a lot of woodworking, like sculpture, like big sculptures with wood, like a structural kind of things. In some other point I did sculptures with concrete, so I learned how to work with concrete. In other point, and that was constantly through the years. I work a lot with metal, so I learned how to weld, and I got actually pretty good at welding, and I love metal. I mean, I love every single material. And when you know how to work with different materials, I mean, you have an advantage that other artists or creative people don't have, because you you can express yourself in different ways. And then at the same time, when after college, actually simultaneously in college, I was working in experiential education, doing summer camps and through the whole year, because in Colombia we don't have like summer, like it's not seasonal anything. So we have programs with the schools where we brought the kids to different places in Colombia and South America, Central America, and with environmental education and things like that, like doing actually what I used to do, like climbing, high ropes courses and all those things. And in some point, actually, I built a canopy in the Amazon, because the Amazon was one of the places that we used to travel a lot. And I mean, I have many friends there, and it's one of the places that is really deep in my heart. And yes, I built that, the canopy. There were 2 platforms in 2 different sides of a little lake, a lagoon in the like deep in the forest, and we it was a zip line from one to another. So that was like my first big building project. Before that, of course, I used to build a lot like different stuff, and I used to work. I worked for 5 years in the backstage of the opera in the art team. So I was really close with building, and my father is an architect, and even if I didn't grow with him, but I was close with architecture all my life, and so I was pretty close with building. And in some projects, I always try to use that architect, like the structural part of the sculptures and doing plans. I used to love that part, so I actually learned back then how to use MicroStation. It's a software that still engineers use, and AutoCAD and all the things. I just love that part. Like I used to love and still think it's really important, even more than your creation, the process. For me, the process is way more important, because it's where is the learning. The learning is right there in all the process. The product itself, the creation is just circumstantial. Sometimes you have to be open to learn in that process, because, for example, if you know exactly what you're going to create, if you think deeply, maybe it doesn't even make sense to do it, because in your imaginary, it already exists. So why I should do or create something that already exists in your mind? So that's why the process is so important, because things change and evolve or come back. I mean, it's a moving stage all the time in your mind. So for me, it's really important, the process. So yes, since then I was always into building, and here in America, after working in other things, for a friend of mine, I started working in construction, doing things which I was doing the design and then the construction, because I didn't have a crew. My crew is myself. So, and sometimes friends here and there that help me, but I never had like a consistent crew that helped me with everything and did like a career in my business. So yes, in construction I try to many different things, but the part that I like the most, of course, is the designing, but some specific parts of contracting I really like, because I really like to think that is the creation part, but that the stage is really short, not too long, let's say, and then in the other part you don't have even to think, so it's more like like a meditation stage where you don't have to think, just do. Like painting, I love to paint, not artistic painting, like contracting painting, like walls and those things. I love it because you don't have to think. You have to do it well, right, of course, but you don't have to think, and it's really meditating stage. Yeah, it's, and not just that. There's many other examples, like I know putting doing framing or some. Is many things that you don't have to think much, or the thinking is really, really basic, and then you just have to do, and it's like when you do a sport, you don't have to think much, just do it, and that just doing without thinking it can bring you to mentally to really meditation stages, so it's good. So yes, inspiration comes from working, as for example Picasso used to say that the inspiration comes working. So, and yes, you are a product of everything that you live through your whole life. So sometimes even you like want to be inspired for something, but you never know how your mind is gonna process the things that you visualize or learn or whatever or see in your life. So yeah, it's like sometimes I really like some things and I would like to be influenced by that, and I may be, but maybe not. It's like it's weird how the mind process things sometimes, and the timeline is not like this happened after this. I get inspired after I watch this. It's like your memory that is not linear. You may live something that really interests you, or see a landscape that you love, or yeah, whatever, and maybe 10 years later it came out with some creation process that, and you never know how or or yeah, or when. So yes, you are a product definitely for everything that you live, but you never know how your mind will process it. And of course, you create your aesthetics and everything for your context and everything that you have lived. So yes, definitely. My mom was an interior designer. My father, an architect. So I have really specific aesthetics. It's really specific what I like and what I don't like, but and that's your aesthetic, yes. And every person, I will say, it has it. And even when I was a kid, I was really into how I dress. So it was really important for me not to dress nice clothes, like the aesthetic itself. I was actually a little kind of punk, but actually being punk is an aesthetic, specific aesthetic that it's a specific look that I was trying to get. And yes, in art, express that too. I think I like a specific artist, and yeah. Yes, I love my country. It's like a love and hate relation. The hate coming from the love, and I think it's because I love it so much, but I know that some things will never change. That's why I hate it too. So yes, I had the opportunity I was a photographer in some point in my life too, and in some point I got a big contract with a magazine and a guide, a touristic guide. So I was traveling for the whole year, like the whole year traveling. Like I was every day traveling, and it was by car actually, because it was the idea of the guide was to do the trips in car, using the roads in Colombia, the really poor infrastructure that has Colombia, that Colombia has. But so I was able to know my whole country. I mean, I used to travel a lot anyways, and with the other job that I used to do, bringing kids everywhere in Colombia. But with this project, I went to every single corner. That I traveled so much that, and I saw so many churches and things that now I'm confused. I don't know where is each one. I know like each one, but I don't know where it is, because it was hundreds and hundreds of different places. And in my trips, I was lucky in the time that I was traveling with the kids, I was lucky to go many times to the same place, which I love, because you create a special relationship with the place and with the people. So it's completely different when you go as a tourist to anywhere than when you start having relationships with the people in the place, and you see it differently. They see you differently, and you perceive the place completely different after the second time, the third time. Like every time is different. I actually love to go many times to the same place, exactly for that, because every time you go, you see different aspects that you didn't see the first time. For example, when you watch a movie many times, every single time you watch it, you see different aspects of the photography in the beginning, in the first time. Maybe the second time you see the characters, the third time you see other things that you were not able to see the first time, and that happens with places, and that's beautiful. Yes, I mean, the biggest difference I will say is that because this country has been meaning United States, it's been the most powerful country since, I would say, after the First World War to nowadays, that changed the whole geopolitical world. Meaning people had to learn English. People usually know a lot about the United States, but people being from the United States doesn't necessarily have to know about other cultures or countries. And I'm not saying it as a wrong or bad thing, which it may, but it's a circumstantial thing. It's the product of the circumstances, that being the most powerful, you don't care about the less powerful. That's straightforward. So when you grow up in a country in developing process, like how we say nowadays, you have to see a lot from outside, because we are in a deep shit. So you just have to see. Before was Europe, now it's United States. So, and I say United States a lot because we in Latin America don't like to call United States America first, because for us America is a continent, it's not a country, and we don't even call people who born in United States, Americans, we call them estadounidenses, which will say, doesn't have a literal translation, but it will say something like Estadinians or something like that. And yes, because, I mean, even Colombia is part of America. So yes, we don't call Americans to people born here. And yes, those circumstances make you grow completely different. So usually when you, of course, when you have the opportunity coming from developing countries to get education, you usually know a lot of different cultures, or you have to study a lot of things outside your own country. And that is really different here, yes, for the same reasons that I already said. So yes, people here, yes, I would say that just grow with different circumstances, and that changed a lot. Another big difference I see is that we used to have, I mean, if you go to Colombia, to many places, you can still find a lot of indigenous cultures that are pretty primitive, or they still conserve their traditions a lot. And yes, here you have indigenous people, yes, the ones that own these places where you game and those things, and you win or lose. But they don't conserve their traditions pretty much. If you go to many places in South America, they still conserve their traditions, and we start really strong traditions. For example, if you go to Mexico, because their indigenous were so developed and so strong culturally, they still conserve a lot of that. Here, I will say that the traditions, it's not that the United States doesn't have traditions. I would say the traditions are not that old. The traditions are way newer. So, I mean, it's different approaches with how you can see it, or definitely say it that it's the country of no traditions, which is a tradition itself, and because the immigration too, that is a mixture of many cultures and many things. So the country itself, their own traditions of their own character, it diffuses a little bit. In other countries in South America, they still conserve a lot more their traditions and their culture itself. And it doesn't mean that they're not cosmopolitan. I mean, every single capital in South America is usually a big city, bigger than the cities usually here in the United States, excluding, of course, New York. But Bogota is the size of New York, I will say, and Mexico City is twice as big, or more than twice, and Buenos Aires is bigger too. I mean, but besides the point, every single country in South America and Central America, they have big cities which are cosmopolitan, and you can find food from every part of the world there. You can do anything, and technologically you have access to everything that you have here too. Maybe it's not as reachable to everybody as it is here, because the acquisitive power that you have in those countries, where the difference between classes are way bigger. So no, it's not that everybody has access to the things that people has here easier, starting for education, which is another discussion too. But yes, I think those little things mark the big difference between, say, developing countries in South America, where I come from, and United States. Me encanta, el español es increíble. Tiene unas posibilidades que uno no encuentra a veces en inglés. El inglés para mí, siendo un idioma también rico, claro, y me encanta lo que sea, pero es un poco más genérico. No tiene, no es tan específico en algunos momentos como lo es el español, empezando por el amor. En inglés todo es love. En español uno tiene diferentes palabras para diferentes grados de amar. So language, I love Spanish. It's more a specific language. For me, even if it's a rich language, the English, meaning English too, but it's kind of more generic language. Maybe it's because I'm ignorant and I'm not really good at it and I don't know all the words. But actually when the words are really specific, they are actually really close that you say whatever in Spanish because they come from Latin usually, those are specific words. But anyways, and I did say an example, love. When in Spanish you have different levels to say love. It's 5 different ways to say love depending on the grade. In English you say just love for everything. So that shows just the level of specificity, how specific is the Spanish, and that happens with many other things. Three, two, one. Sorry, I blank out. Three, two, one. Family is definitely the most important thing. Is the things to ground your life to. Yes, ground down yourself is. I sometimes don't understand. The relationships itself are really different for Latin Americans. We are more familiar. Here, people is more individual. But yes, just family is everything. Is the circumstantial thing in your life that makes your life actually like gives sense to your life. And when you then make your own family, having kids and things, that actually gives you again sense. It's like to your whole life. It's changed everything. Yes, do whatever you love. Like be passionate about everything. Things change through your life. Sometimes you love something and then after a while you don't love it anymore and you just change. But when you change to that new thing, just do it the same way as you did the one before that you used to love. Like love everything that you do. Like do it, put everything, invest everything in that new project in your life. Like it's other ways to say it, like live the moment, but yes, like be passionate about whatever you're doing and don't let life conduct or direct your life. Take decisions and yeah, I always say that I'm really scared when the life puts you in that stage where you are getting a good income and your life become static, because you become static too, and you start losing yourself in that balance, ephemeral balance actually. So yes, just love what you do and be passionate about everything that you do. So now I throw the mic like that.